Well. Trisha Paytas has even outdone, Trisha Paytas with the trolling. The queen of the trolls. I gotta wonder, how does she do this? Does she just simply look at the trending page and then comes up with an idea like that and somehow identifies herself? Oh, the school of trolling. Hey kids, welcome to Straight Talkin' Fedora Chic. And for those of you who are new here, we are a storytime / social commentary channel. We focus a lot on mental health topics, but not exclusively. If you're into that kind of thing, please consider subscribing and hit that little ringy thingy icon below so you can be notified every time I go live or upload. And usually, I know I shouldn't give Trisha Paytas this kind of attention, and usually I ignore her for the most part, especially after what she described how victims of trauma should behave. Oh, what have we seen from her to date? The trolling. She has borderline personality disorder. She does not have borderline personality disorder. Kind of like the he loves me not kind of scenario. You need a scorecard to keep up with that. And then there was the not that long ago where she somehow identified as transgendered. Let me try to get this straight, because even her trolling is frickin' well confusing. She identified as being a gay man living in a woman's body. Anyways, yeah, right. This time she outdid herself. And I think it stems from a video Anthony Padilla uploaded last week that I believe trended, called Spending a Day with People with Dissociative Identity Disorder. I will link his video in the pinned comment below, so you can check it out for yourself. He interviews several people who suffer from dissociative identity disorder. For those who don't know, okay, I'm not a healthcare professional, and nor am I going to pretend to be one. And so I'm just going to do the best I can here and give a very brief overview from a layman's terms. We have seen it in pop culture, movies like Split and the 1976 movie starring Sally Field called Sybil, where Sally Field plays the lead character who had 16 alters. So anyway, Trisha Paytas has come out and said she has DID, dissociative identity disorder. So anyways, we're going to react to that. I'm only going to play the audio. I apologize in advance for the poor audio. It's because Trisha Paytas is kind of so scantily clad. Yes, we know the trolling comes in when the full-on cleavage is in full view. So we're only going to play the audio, and we will react to that as we go. Oh, so shall we?
Hey guys, what is up? So today I am doing a video which I feel like is a surprise to some, but I feel like once you know, it's probably not that big of a surprise to others, and that is a Meet My Alters video. If you guys don't know what an alter is people that have multiple personalities, dissociative identity disorder, which I have actually talked about quite frequently.
Yeah.
This is another video that's going to come up, and people are like, oh, Trisha jumping on another bandwagon, Trisha trying to do this.
Well, you are.
In actuality, I've talked about it plenty of times. I've talked about it on a TV show, even in Reels TV, where I was doing a it was like a documentary thing on Marilyn Monroe, and I went to like the place where she had her first photo shoot at Zuma Beach, and I was talking about DID there.
Really?
I dated a girl who also had DID, and we talked about it a lot there. She has alters. multiple personalities, and yeah, I feel like it's something that I don't necessarily delve into or even talk about. I definitely tell people,
nor should
in
you.
real life. So many people ask, do you have a disorder? Are you diagnosed with something? Are you bipolar? Are you schizo? And I'm like, honestly, I've never been diagnosed with anything. The closest thing that I have self-diagnosed myself, I guess.
See, what have we all said about self-diagnosing, whether it's physical or mental illness? That is not a good idea.
Is multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder.
See, right there, here's a problem. Multiple personality disorder and dissociative identity disorder are one and the same. It's just that up until about 30 years ago, it was known as multiple personality disorder. 30 years ago, the name changed, dissociative identity disorder. They are one and the same. They are the exact same disorder. My question is, Trisha, why on earth would you pick a disorder that often carries the most stigma? It is certainly a controversial diagnosis. Why on earth would you do this? And this smacks of making a mockery of mental illness. Now, Trisha Paytas is no stranger to making a mockery of mental illness, but this is taken to new lows. And already, first out of the gate, first mistake. Once again, multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, one and the same.
Or both, because there's some differences, there's some similarities, and some people just think they're like all same.
No, they're the same.
They're all completely different. For me, I consider them quite similar, but I think my disassociating comes differently than in the form of my alters. So I feel like the alters are my multiple personality, and I feel like dissociativeness is
now already to the lay person. Okay, a complicated and severe mental health disorder, dissociative identity disorder, is complicated enough for a layperson such as myself to understand. Okay, so all I can do is read about it and still come out, still being confused about it. For her, okay, to come out with this, way to piss off a community. And yes, there is a community, dissociative identity disorder. There is a community on YouTube. I'm going to link one of their channels also in the comment box. It'll be the video of a young woman who Trisha actually referred to as crazy. No, I kid you not. Anyways, here we go.
In a different realm, but it usually only takes place, I guess, under Trixie, which I do.
Trixie?
I guess it's disassociating because like another alter is coming to the front. This is not something that I don't want to scare people.
See, here's the thing. One of the thing about the alters, the way I understand it, if anybody who has a better understanding of DID, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. But you wouldn't know the other personality, the alter is coming out. Okay, you wouldn't know. A big part of the symptomology of DID is amnesia. In other words, one alter from the host or the core personality, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the other is doing. And they wouldn't know when they're coming out. Usually the treatment of DID is very intensive psychotherapy and is basically to integrate, I believe that's the proper term, integrate the alters.
And in general, I guess I don't really tell people the extent of it. My own Trish. Unfortunately for me, Trish, I never really formed my own personality. I always thought I kind of was like taking other people's personalities or borrowing or...
You see, no, DID is not borrowing or adapting personality traits from either your favorite star, your favorite YouTube, or an acquaintance, okay? That is a huge, huge mistake.
Or becoming like my friends, or becoming like my boyfriends, or becoming around the person I'm around, which I still do to a certain degree. And I feel like Trish, if anything, disassociates the most without disassociating, if that makes sense. So people know me as Trish, like they see me as eccentric, they see me as something different every day. And
that does not constitute DID, dear.
I feel like, yes, I disassociate, I guess you could call it that, into Trixie, one of my alters, but in actuality, I disassociate in general by becoming who I'm around. And I feel like that's very noticeable. When I was in England, I started having like an English accent, and I don't think everyone with DID has this. I don't think everyone with personality.
There are the personalities from DID that can have a different accent. According to Anthony Padilla in the beginning of his video from last week, he had said the first documented case came out from the late 18th century from a German woman who was who had an alter that spoke French, despite the fact that she had never been to France, nor has she ever taken French lessons. But what Trisha is describing is sometimes when you've been in another country for a long time, you could adapt the accent as well as the culture in wherever you are. When I was a kid, I was in the Netherlands, and I was there for about a month and a half with my family. And I never learned how to speak Dutch, but the relatives all spoke English, and they all had a Dutch accent. And when we all came home back to Canada, friends of my parents had noticed that I was speaking with a Dutch accent, meaning I had adopted the English that my father's relatives were speaking to me, their accent. It's not DID. It's just having been immersed in a certain culture with people who spoke English with a certain accent. It's not DID.
Sort of has this. I don't think they just become someone else. I think Trish likes to. I think me, I never was able to develop.
Develop what?
My personality. That's fine, because I have others that are there. And unfortunately, I'm someone who can't just...
You see, you can't be this flippant. I don't know what my personality is, but fortunately, I have others. What the hell is that? Again, this is making a mockery of people who actually suffer from the disorder. People with DID, okay, it's such a debilitating disorder that it affects the way they function. It affects their day-to-day functioning. It affects, whether or not they can work, their relationships, family, etc. Okay, it is one of the most debilitating of mental illnesses.
Choose, and if anything, I don't talk about it a lot because I'm not as in tune or as in touch with my alters. I know when I feel it.
Again, you don't feel it, okay? You don't know, okay? The alters have, pretty much no memory or no knowledge of what the other is doing. And later on, through the intensive integration therapy, forgive me again if I'm miswording the terminology here, but only through integration. Okay, but but before that happens, it's amnesia. You would have no memory.
I know, for instance, T, who I've actually talked about before on this channel. I can't remember what the video title was. It was when I was like not identifying as a boy or a girl. It was just before my trans video. Someone
Yes.
I'm sure will be able to find it and leave it in the comments below. But yeah, I definitely wanted to go by T. Like I didn't want to be a human. And
okay, so let me get this straight. You, the core personality, chose this name for this particular altar. I don't think that's how it works, once again. And notice how they all begin with the letter T.
And T comes from, it's so funny because like I talk about them, but I'm talking about them as me.
Once again, the gender of the alters, okay? They're not referred to as them. They are he or she, okay? Yes, female. Yes, a female suffering from the disorder can very well have male alters. It's quite common for somebody suffering that disorder. Anyways, we're going to fast forward a little bit. Take a gander.
Sensitive, emotionalness. I feel
Emotionalness, is that a word? Oops, the ads.
Remember Candle Cove?
That show gave me the worst nightmares.
He doesn't come around as much anymore due to trauma that happened last year. And I feel like that's when he kind of got cut off from showing more in the front, presenting himself more. And also that has to do with Tyranny, who is...
Oh, Tyranny.
It's just weird to talk about like other people as if they're like not here, but they're like there. Tyranny's catty, slutty, lies a lot.
We sure we're not talking about you?
But mostly for attention, never
Oh, no, Trisha, that's you. That's you. But yeah, go ahead and blame it on your imaginary friend, because we know it's not DID.
And Tyranny's the only one that has defined sexuality.
Okay, let's move forward. Anyways, we're not going to play the rest of this video, I don't think, anyway. I think we've gotten enough of an idea of, you know, her... of her trolling here in this. No, this makes a mockery of those people with mental illness, but in particular, people with DID, dissociative identity disorder. She even went so far as to refer to one prominent member of that community known as Dissocia DID. That's a YouTube channel. That's a YouTube channel I am going to link in the description box. The pin comment below. And because Trisha Paytas referred to her as crazy. So she is further in her trolling, she further stigmatized the disorder. She further stigmatized DID in going after one of the members of the DID YouTube community. Now, she put out another video this morning, which was basically a lot of swearing, once again, with the cleavage. And she was talking, and she was yelling and she was screaming and she was being all hurt and everything. But basically what she was describing herself was having, as again, she called them her alters once again, but they're not. What she's describing is an identity crisis, which most of us at any age have. We've heard of the midlife crisis. We hear of teenagers going through a crisis. The 20-something, the 30-something going through angst, figuring out what direction their lives are going, figuring out who they are. That's what Trisha was basically ranting about. That, of course, is not DID. Even me, with my the layman, with my limited capacity even knows this. Okay? We even know this. So, and DID is generally linked to it's generally linked to to childhood trauma so severe and usually persistent. And anyways, I would let somebody else from the DID community describe what it is, because they can do a far better job of it than I can. But my basic problem with Trisha Paytas is that not only is she passing out dangerous information, remember, she has a lot of young people in her audience. That's her main demographic. They're young, they're impressionable. So this is why this is so dangerous. And that's why that's why she must be called out. Like, what if some young person, going through some kind of identity crisis or whatever, decides, oh, I have DID now, because they watched her video, because they watched Trisha's video. See, this is where it gets dangerous. It's, we all do that. We all have identity crisis. We all may adapt somebody else's personality, or we adapt a different persona. Most of us on social media actually do. What we see on camera is not necessarily what is behind the scenes. But again, it's not a mental illness necessarily. It's not even, especially not dissociative identity disorder. And this is why it's so dangerous to play with. Like I said, it is a very controversial and one of the most stigmatizing mental illnesses there are. So anyways, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And correct any misinformation I might have had. The other thing is, I suggest, if you want to read a book that I would recommend, Judy Rebick's Heroes in My Head. She is a Canadian author, plus a Canadian former political activist for the environmental causes, feminism, women's rights, all that stuff. This is an autobiographical book. She wrote about her own experience with dissociative identity disorder, called Heroes in My Head. And I recommend the read, because I think that is where you can get the best information from somebody who actually is going through with it, as well as the channel Dissociative DID, or Anthony Padilla's interview with all these DID patients. So anyways, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, if there is somebody in your midst who is alone and vulnerable, please take the time to look in on them. Sometimes lending a sympathetic ear is what makes all the difference in the world. Straight talking Fedora Chick over and out.